from all the research that we've done so far, it's made it harder to believe in fairies.
Thank you.
I'm not saying I don't, because I do still believe that there is some smaller form of nature energy, but I feel like if fairies existed, there would be more definable evidence and proof, like there is with ghosts. There is more stuff that is unexplainable, and there isn't with fairies. There's less, just stories.
And I think it's really important that you've looked at that and you've gone, there are some things that I just can't really be said true.
I feel like,
however, to protect, I don't know why I'm doing this, to bubble wrap your beliefs a little bit, because I think, it's nice to have a certain level of like belief in magic and that sort of stuff, because
which I still do believe in.
Yeah, I know, but reality can be stupid and harsh and difficult. It could, some things maybe we will just discover later down the line, and it is that we have not discovered everything there is to discover. However, it is highly unlikely that fairies, as we have seen them depicted, are real.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this quite a lot as I've been sort of driving around and as we've been researching and looking into stories. I just sit there and I go, I think they are more of an old world explanation for things we now understand and can verbalise better. We look at how many of these stories are there to explain women's feelings during pregnancy and childbirth. We look at how they are cautionary tales. Don't go out into the pit, you'll get caught up by the Tommy gruesome whatever, like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So I feel like I'm betraying this cause, but I'm also sort of sat there and I'm like, how do you, when there is no physicalness, how do you justify blind faith? You can't.
Yeah, which it's quite sad in a way, not being able to have blind faith. I wish I could have blind faith, because I feel like it's easier to go about your life if you have blind faith in something. That's not meant in like a patronising kind of way. I just think, there are some things we haven't discovered yet, so I don't know if...
Yeah.
It's weird that I'm trying to like justify fairies too. It's almost like we've flip-flopped, and it's because I'm actually panicked a little bit about the idea of you like losing your faith in something. I don't like it.
I feel really sad about it as well, because I'm sat there and I'm like, I started off the season, so like fairies are real, they are existing, and now I'm like, ooh, but are they?
And that's really bumming me out, because I'm all for the argument. I don't want to put you in like an existential crisis or anything. I'm sorry.
Well, you pointed this out on the last episode. You were like, you realise your stories do not prove fairies, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah, and that's really bummed me out, because Rox, for some context, was so excited for this case study episode where she could delve into proper fairy modern encounters and like have evidence and stuff, and it's just coming back to there just really isn't. Now, if that's because the media is like monitored and what we get on the internet isn't actually everything that we could be seeing, is information being withheld from us, tinfoil hat time, maybe. It's not ridiculous to suggest that information gets withheld. It does.
Yeah.
However, it is so unlikely that fairies are real, and I'm like looking into Rox's face right now. It's just so sad and it's bumming me out.
It's just brought my world crashing down around.
No.
I'm fine. It's fine. It'll be absolutely fine. So why don't you tell me about our tools of the trade for this episode? Is it going to restore my faith?
No. I'm so bummed out now.
I'm sorry.
Right. Welcome back to Scared in the Name of Science, Season 2, Episode 12, Tools of the Trade, the Fail, the Foe. This season's Tool of the Trades episode, we're going to be looking at cameras and photographic evidence.
Wait, is there photographic evidence for fairies that I don't know about?
No. Before we get into it, Rox, what are your thoughts on photographic evidence?
Photo's a photo, innit? No, I know it's more than that. I know that there are some examples of photographs of fairies, I put in inverted commas. I'm sure you're going to tell me about those in a little bit. I have seen some very interesting footage of fairies that are definitely not lens flares. I say that as sarcastically as anything. I think, realistically, if we were going to capture anything, photographic and video evidence is going to be the most legitimate way to do so, beyond, like, being able to scientifically analyse blood and physical matter about it.
If you had asked me 10 years ago what my thoughts on photographic evidence was, back when I was 16, I would have probably had a much simpler outlook on the situation. Photos were still trustworthy to me. Yes, a photo could be faked or manipulated, but they weren't AI generated yet.
See, I feel like you could have asked me that a year ago and I would have said that. Because yes, fakes happen, but AI has just completely changed the game.
It has. And kind of before we get into the impacts of AI on photographic evidence, why don't we talk about practical effects and manipulation first, starting with the most famous case study, the Cottingley Fairies. Rox, what do you know of the Cottingley Fairies?
It was cousins or sisters who were having a lark in the garden, took some photos and happened to catch fairies.
Pretty much a fair summary. Between 1917 and 1920, cousins Francis Griffiths and Elsie Wright produced 5 photographs of fairy encounters. The girls, who were 9 and 16 at the time.
Oh, so quite a big age gap.
To be honest, the ages like flip-flop and change quite a bit. Because in some accounts, like 13. Because I mean, it is a time span. Maybe I'm looking at like the youngest and the oldest age, because as a 16-year-old, I couldn't imagine being bored enough to try and fake fairy photographs with a 9-year-old.
I do think it's a different time period, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I know, but even still. Anyway, we'll say 9 and 16 at the time. I have seen conflicting ages.
Right. Teenagers and kids.
Teenagers and kids. They were playing with fairies behind Elsie's house in Cottingley, Yorkshire. These photographs that had been taken were heralded as genuine proof of fairies by the English spiritualist movement at the time. A big name in that would have been Arthur Conan Doyle.
Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
In this instance, I'm not giving him the
So, the person who wrote the Sherlock Holmes books.
Yeah.
Novellas.
Yeah. So a really prominent name.
Yeah, and a prominent mind as well at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. When experts looked at these photographs, they were baffled by them. One expert had said that these were genuine, unfaked photos of single exposure open air work. Straight, untouched photographs. Another expert thought that it had been faked, but only by a first-class photographer.
Couldn't possibly be 2 young girls.
No, with active imaginations. I'm going to keep my modern skepticisms in check, but by looking at the photographs, it is really something that you think, damn, was there really ever a doubt that these were fake?
I mean, you need to remember as well, though, that cameras are quite a new technology.
Yeah, exactly, which is why I'm like trying to keep that.
That's fair.
Which is why I said I'm going to try and keep it in check.
Sorry.
Looking at them personally, I'm like, damn, really? who did these fool? But at the time, it would have been unprecedented, really. The reason why I would be eyebrow raised is because the fairies don't even look like living beings in the same way that the girls do. You must agree with me there, having seen the photographs.
Having seen the photographs from memory, yeah? I remember when I first saw them, I was like, oh my god. No, when I was really little. I was like, oh my god, this is so cool. And then as I've gotten older, I've gone, question mark.
The face I just pulled at Rox there, I was like, no, don't tell me. You've got no hope.
Clearly, I must still have some.
Right. Photographic expert Harold Snelling confirmed the photos as authentic images of what was in front of the camera.
Right.
Which, yeah, fair enough. That is a fair assessment of practical effects.
I'm sure it was in front of the camera. Yeah, wow, photographic expert.
I know, what a way of like not having an opinion. Practical effects are defined as being effects produced physically without computer-generated imagery or post-production techniques. At the time, practical effects would have been probably one of the only ways of doing any kind of faking. I imagine it would have been very difficult to tamper with film at that point.
I mean, you look nowadays, most people prefer practical effects on films and TV shows because they do come across as more genuine and lifelike and real.
The Cottingley Fairies are, of course, fake. I'm just going to state that now. They are obviously fake. The fairies in the books are hand-drawn copies of figures that appeared in Princess Mary's gift book, but had wings added to them. The fairies were then held up and kind of positioned by hat pins.
Which the girls would have a lot of access to.
Yeah. The authenticity of the photos were somehow hotly debated until I think it was the 1960s, and in 1980 Elsie finally confirmed that the photos were faked. Francis, however, refused to say that the final photograph was fake, maintaining that the final photograph was genuine, which, sorry, but 4 out of 5 are fake. What's the likelihood that the 5th one's going to be fake?
So the 4 are fake, but the last one is real, but yet somehow they look identical?
They look similar, yeah. And, one cousin just going, yeah, they're fake, and the other one's like, not the last one.
But it's also debated who took that last photo. They both claim it was them.
Oh, interesting. The full set of the photos were recently sold at auction for £3,100, which I think is really cool.
Yeah. That's not even that expensive.
We've come a long way since the days of paper fairies. More and more camera tricks have popped up to diminish the overall trustworthiness of photographic evidence in cameras. Let's look at digital editing, colloquially referred to as photoshopping after the software Adobe Photoshop. This refers to the act of digitally altering an image. We've all seen digitally altered images. Some are easy to spot, some are difficult depending on the skill of the photoshopper. These can be as simple as the glossy covers of magazines where women are enhanced to look more beautiful, and by that I mean to be more in line with modern beauty standards rather than,
of that country as well. I've actually recently seen that photoshopping is becoming less of a popular colloquialism for that, and instead airbrushing.
Yeah.
Has become more of it.
I'm thinking back to being a kid, and you always knew someone who could Photoshop something, and sometimes they'd be really good and other times it would be I don't know, Pac-Man eating a person or something daft.
And there I was struggling with paint.
Yeah, I've never photoshopped anything in my life. I've got no skill at that sort of thing. Digitally altering is a clever way of kind of manufacturing the truth, as in it manipulates reality and blurs it with enhancements. So how would you go about spotting photoshopped images?
Photoshopped?
Yeah.
I would look for curves or non-matching lines in the background. I would try to verify it against moving image as well. Nowadays, I'd look for filters on fake eyelashes or unusual eye colours beyond the norm. Things like that, I guess. It's really hard, though.
Yeah, so some telltale signs would be unnatural lighting, inconsistent shadows, pixelation, for example, inconsistent pixelation, image warping. Now, that was a really big one, when everyone used to try and, Photoshop their waist tiny and give themselves, a massive butt. And you could literally just see, but you'd see the doorway, warping as well with it. But sometimes it can be far too difficult to tell visually. And again, a lot has changed since the advent of Photoshop. Now there are more tricks, more complicated things to again reduce the trustworthiness of photographic evidence. So we'll move on to AI generated images. Now, AI images are generated by complex machine learning algorithms, and an example of this would be the artificial neural networks. Now, I have touched on machine learning while studying for my master's, but to be completely transparent, it wasn't my strongest module. In my final piece on it, I was supposed to be able to create a machine learning algorithm, but mine would not predict anything.
Oh no!
It was not my strong suit.
At least this is, not quantum physics this time, though. You've actually studied it a little bit.
A little, I mean, yeah, but again, when someone does not fully understand something, their explanation may not be entirely up to snuff. So therefore, if you are feeling that my explanation is lacking, by all means go and do your own research on it.
Comment below so we know and learn.
I'm not the authority on this at all. But that being said, I will give it a go. So machine learning is a weak form of AI. It can be separated into 2 categories. Supervised learning uses labelled training data to predict outcomes.
Okay.
Now let's say you were putting loads of pictures through it. Labels would be oh, is this a cat or is this a dog? And you'd be using labelled examples. This is a dog, this is a cat.
Right. So it's categorization and trends.
Yeah.
Right.
And unsupervised learning uses unlabeled data to find hidden patterns and trends. Both rely on training data. Training data in this instance would be whatever images were input into the system, and given the quantity of images available on the internet, this is going to be a lot. A lot of the copyright issues around AI is the fact that they are just trained on what is on the internet, regardless of
permission or not.
Yeah, if you've got permission or not. The neural networks are algorithms that function as processors and generators to create an image based on text input.
Mm-hmm.
These images are created based on the training data that the machine learning algorithm had access to.
Mm-hmm. I've seen some recent ones where they put a picture into an AI model and go, recreate this picture and don't change anything. Mm-hmm. And it is unable to do so.
These AI-generated images are becoming more and more refined in quite alarming timeframes. I think even earlier this year, it's easier to spot AI-generated images. Mm-hmm. I mean, a year ago, 2 years ago, it would have been laughable. You'd look at hands and they'd be horrendous.
You'd one look and you'd be like...
Yeah, exactly. In our generation, we grew up as things are popping up tech-wise. We would have grown up with the internet. We would have been on the internet enough to see progression of AI-generated images. Imagine showing this to your grandmother.
Yeah, she'd have no idea.
No. But neither, I reckon, quite a lot of people, because it's not always obvious what it is you're looking for, and to be honest, I'm not entirely sure. There is something about them currently that just doesn't look quite right.
I'm curious to see if it is because we've grown up with this technology and we've seen how it's developing. I know that we naturally have a sweet spot with technology as it is. We are much better at technology than the older generations, but we're also much better at it than the younger generations too. They've got no idea on a lot of this stuff. So I'm really curious to see if they're able to tell these are as disingenuous as we are.
Yeah. Just not to go off on a bit of a tangent, but I had to teach an 18-year-old how to use a desktop computer at work. They kept trying to use the screen as a touch screen. They didn't understand the mouse function, and they could not figure out Excel and the premise of clicking and dragging. Now, obviously, I'm not trying to diminish the tech abilities of younger generations. However, if you've grown up predominantly using iPads and Apple Macs and that kind of stuff, it can be quite hard to adjust to other forms of it. Just in the same way, really, as have you heard of microfiche?
Microfiche?
Yeah, fiche.
Yes.
Right, sorry, I only say microfiche because someone at work was describing it to me and they kept saying microfiche. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I know what microfiche is, I've used it before, yeah.
Right, I've never used it. I've never even heard about it.
And this is where our 4-year difference makes it a shit.
And they were going on and on and on about microfiche. And I was like, what the hell is microfiche?
Do you know now?
Isn't it really small text that is brought up and stuff?
Kind of. So essentially, it's like photocopying.
Yeah.
So a lot of old newspapers are saved onto microfiche so that you can quickly scan through them and see it. It is. I don't know if you're going to remember this. Oh, God. You know, in primary school, in the assemblies, they used to bring up the projectors.
Yeah, when we had projectors, it would be like hymns.
Yeah, exactly. So it was kind of like that, but on a bigger scale and more.
Which is how it got explained to me.
Yeah.
But I was completely and utterly baffled by it. I was
Yeah.
like, what on earth are you talking about microfiche?
Yeah, it's like floppy disks for me. I know that they're a thing. How they work, I have not a foggy.
And I guess that's the thing with tech evolving.
Yeah.
At some point our tech becomes obsolete and then we won't understand a newer tech, but right now we're in our little sweet spot.
Yeah. But also what's really interesting is if you said to the kids, I'll click the floppy disk, they'd be like, what are you on about?
Yeah.
And talk about technology and primitive forms of AI though. Do you know what I really miss on Word?
What?
The little dude.
What little
The little
dude?
paperclip.
I never had paperclip.
Did you never have him?
Maybe when I was in primary school, Clippy was there.
Oh my god, he was you hated him, you loved to hate him.
The thing is, I know he was called Clippy, wasn't he?
I don't remember.
I know of Little Paperclip Fellow, but I think it's very likely that would have been during my primary school career, in which I was just making fun word art and making the most heinous rainbow gradient backgrounds, and therefore would not have actually had to interact with Clippy much. I do remember, oh god, I missed clip art though. That was slapping clip art on something was a bit of a banger.
But he was the precursor to Grammarly.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah. I didn't even think at the time that this was a form of AI, but it was. It's
a form of machine learning, really.
I'm looking into his soulless eyes and I'm just remembering how quickly I was to throw him in the bin. I feel really bad now.
We are going off on a bit of a tangent about how quickly tech evolves.
But it's true.
So, what are your thoughts on the AI images?
I think they're really dangerous. Because I think we live in a world nowadays where everything is so over-manufactured and over-altered that it's really hard. It makes finding out truth so much harder than it needs to be. I understand that sometimes AI does have its uses, And, you know, I'm not going to be a purist and go, I would never use AI. I absolutely will use it to get around things that I think are rubbish, like algorithms and stuff like that. AI is going to know how an algorithm works better than I'm going to know, because I've not created the algorithm. I'm not going to waste my time looking into algorithms, because the real world is more important. But I do think to a certain degree, and I'm sure there's been studies recently that using AI as your main form of like creativity actually damages your brain long term and reduces the amount that you can your levels of creativity and thinking. Yeah. So I think it's incredibly dangerous. I think that there are uses for it, but we need to be careful about how and when we use it. And one thing I will say is I don't use AI to write any of the episodes. I do all my own research.
Yeah, me as well. I've seen AI generated work and I just laugh at it a lot. Yeah. It's just, a lot of it's still kind of crap. And it doesn't make sense, and you're like, well, where's the thought behind that? Yeah. And also, I think the human aspect is necessary. You can make your leaps and your jumps and your, like, it doesn't really make sense, but I'm going to make this connection anyway, you know? Yeah. And then try and defend it, and I think that's an important...
And it's funner!
Part. Yeah, it is. It's way more fun. I enjoy the research. So, looking at these photos, if this trend continues, it's only going to get harder and harder to spot the difference between AI-generated images and real images that have been digitally altered. I think earlier when we talked about photoshopping, we didn't bring up another danger. That would be like deepfakes, and we all know what deepfakes are, and because I'm trying to keep small PG, I'm not going to go into the more nefarious aspects of deepfakes. Yeah. But it can be really worrying. Yeah. So do we give up on photographic evidence entirely? No. Software exists to determine if photos are AI or if they have been manipulated, and this is great news. So all we have to do is run photos through a software and it will tell us if something is true or not. Well, no. Nothing is 100% foolproof, but it does help. Yeah. And these things are developing in tandem, so as much as AI is developing, the software is developing. So then the AI is trying to outsmart the software and the software is trying to outsmart the AI. And I think when I say AI, I just mean like the image generator. I don't mean like AI in general, because I reckon these software probably also utilises AI to look for AI, which is really, really funny.
Well, yeah, it's been proven that AI is starting to learn from itself and it's starting to get things more wrong because it's learning from its own mistakes.
Snake-eating tail.
Yeah. Yeah. The Ouroboros. Is that what it's called? Ouroboros?
I wanted to say Ouroboros and I was like, haha, sounds silly. I must
be thinking. You're right.
No, it's in like pronunciation. I was like, no, I'm saying that. I'd say it wrong.
Oh, I'll maybe say it wrong first. Ouroboros.
Ouroboros. So, nothing is 100% foolproof when it comes to this software to see if something has been manipulated or faked. But that doesn't mean we should discount photographic evidence entirely. To prove that something is real, the best approach is that every piece of evidence fits together as part of the larger puzzle. By itself, it is just a piece of a puzzle and pretty much useless in the overall picture.
So we need to use triangulation methods in order to verify stuff.
Yeah, if we can fit the pieces together, we can create that larger picture. A photo by itself may not mean much, but if it's placed with a different piece of evidence, it gains more credibility. Yeah. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think triangulation is the best method on that, making sure that you've got 2 or 3 different pieces of evidence to verify. For example, when we do our explorations, we do the voice recording, we do pendulums, we take photographs, we audio record, we video record, to try and make sure we've got things that are verifiable.
Yeah, absolutely. As an analytical chemist, when we are doing testing in a laboratory, we never do just one test. That's ridiculous. We do multiple tests, and it fits together to create the larger image. Let's use a drug compound, for example. We would look at the purity. Can we say that this material is this material based on just purity? No. We'd need to look at the drug's concentration as well. We need to get a spectra. We need to identify the drug. Is this definitely the drug we think we are looking at?
It's all about repeatability, isn't it?
Yeah, it is about repeatability, but it's also about robustness. You need to be able to, without a shadow of a doubt, this is this. There are no possible other explanations. And part of that is you have a series of tests and a series of specifications. Now, the test result needs to be within a set parameter. If everything is within its correct set parameters, happy days, on it goes. However, if you start seeing that things meet certain criteria and not others, then you need to investigate it further. And I think the same is true when you're gathering these kind of evidence. You can't just rely on one method of evidence gathering. You need to look at other methods as well to support your claims.
And it's the same with AI. You can put the same prompt into 3 different generators and it'll come up with something different. You can put the same prompt into the same generator and it'll come up with something different.
So what about photos that haven't had any practical effects, photoshopping, or have been AI generated? Let's say we've taken a photo of a ghost, except it's not a ghost, it's an orb. Are orbs proof of ghosts?
I don't think we've even discussed this on the podcast yet, have we? It depends.
No. Let's go into the functions of a camera. In the simplest terms, for a digital camera, light enters through the lens of the camera and strikes an image sensor. It is then converted into digital data which can be stored on a memory card and viewed on a screen. For film cameras, light enters through the lens and strikes the light-sensitive film. The film is then chemically processed and developed from the physical negative. Either way, the first step is always the same. Light enters through the lens. So why is this significant in terms of orbs? Orbs are created as a result of backscattering. Backscattering can happen when dust, water droplets, or particles are close to the lens. We might not see them, but light reflects off the particle, creating that orb effect in the photos.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Overall, I think photographic evidence can be trusted to a degree. Just like all evidence, it can be manipulated or misrepresented. So it would be unwise to believe something based solely on a photograph, as it would be unwise to believe something on any other solo piece of evidence. That being said, there are still cameras, and photographic evidence is still an excellent means of recording events and can help support a statement, which is why I will continue to keep both a film camera and a digital camera in my toolbox for our investigations. Rox, any final thoughts?
Yeah, so you mentioned orbs.
Yep.
Orbs for me are a little bit of a difficult thing because sometimes I've looked at pictures and film footage of orbs and gone, that's a dust particle, that's a moth, that's a creature flying through the night, we can only see the reflection of light in its eyes, whatever. But then there are some times where I've sat and I've looked at something and I've gone, there is no justifiable reason for that appearing where it has and then disappearing where it has, or the colour, or the formation of it. So I do think that we do, with at least with the case of orbs, we have to take on a case-by-case basis, rule out what we can initially. Like a lot of the time in ghost hunts, it's dust. It's it's a creepy building. It's dust. But then sometimes I look at them and I go, ooh, interesting.
But that just means you don't understand how it's appeared at that time.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that it's a ghost.
No, but I'm also saying it doesn't mean it's natural either. We don't know.
Sure.
All I'm trying to say is that we have to eliminate all the natural causes and possibilities first, and then what we're left with we can then interpret as we want to.
Sure, we haven't eliminated all of the natural causes, which
Yeah.
is why it gives pause, because just because you can't see the speck of dust doesn't mean you can usually see a speck of dust. Just because you don't maybe notice it at that time does not mean anything. However, I'm not going to argue too much with it based on crippling your beliefs with fairies. I feel really bad for it.
I will say, light flares in cameras I think is something that does need to be looked at as well. A light flare in a camera lens does not a fairy make.
No, and that's the thing. With cameras, I'm going to get really riled up about this for some reason. With cameras, we are entirely reliant on how light is reflected into the lens. So many things influence the reflection of light into the camera. As we were saying, water droplets, particles. I mean, gosh, look at animal eyes.
Yeah.
And I just think that, yes, they are a tool, but it doesn't mean that they perfectly capture everything as it is seen at that point.
I can agree with that.
And therefore I could be looking at something and not see any orbs because I'm not having the light reflection issue with my eyes, but a camera is not a human eye and therefore is more prone to it.
But that could also then be that thing of it's not a human eye and therefore it can see things that we can't.
Except when we've already scientifically decided what it is that they can.
Well, yeah. I really enjoyed that episode. I didn't think you were going to go down the AI path.
Why not?
I don't know, I thought you'd go for like the light and the colour spectrum and stuff like that. But I love that you went down a different route.
Because it's been done to death, you know, like
right.
reflection and everything. AI is kind of new.
It's new. Yeah.
It's kind of new. And it's scary. Because it's, gosh, you know, when we were at the Stranger Days festival, for example, the Bigfoot investigators were saying pics or it didn't happen used to be the benchmark. Pics or it didn't happen, and nowadays we get pics and we go, nah,
yeah, that's AI.
AI.
Yeah,
AI.
no,
AI.
yeah.
And That's really hard, because how do you prove something in that case? You need so much evidence.
Absolutely.
And the idea that things can be manipulated nefariously or unnefariously is really scary.
It is.
I mean, gosh, I think with things like private investigators and cheating, and like just on a personal relationship level, imagine if fake images of you got sent to like your partner in a compromising situation with another person. How do you defend it?
Yeah,
because it comes down to like what? Because once upon a time it would have been absolutely, I believe that there are pictures of you doing something, and nowadays it's like, oh, it could have been edited.
One of my favourite episodes of The Good Wife has some pictures being sent to the woman's home and the kids find them, and it's of the dad like doing something he shouldn't be doing, and the kid is sat there with these photos on his computer looking at them, studying them, and he figures out that they are fake and that they are doctored because the light shine is in the wrong place in the dad's eyes, and it is only that tiny detail that is off. Like, come on, that's insane.
Yeah, like, that can't be such and such. They've got a freckle on their butt cheek and it's not there in the picture. You're like, come on. It's difficult. So that was why I went down that route, because I think that it has such a massive impact on what we consider viable evidence.
Yeah, I loved it. Good job.
Right, thanks. So that was a lot of fun, and I think this was our final spoken episode as well. We speak in the investigation, but like, this is our final researched and delivered.
Yeah, we've just got the investigation left. So
I'd say this season has been fascinating, frustrating,
heartbreaking.
I'm so sorry, Rox.
It's not your fault.
I feel so bad.
Your episodes haven't created this doubt. My research has created this doubt.
If there's any proof, like, if I say something, Rox is like, no, shut up. Like, if I say something, Rox immediately goes the other way in terms of belief.
I think we probably should have been put onto this where a couple of episodes ago you read an account and I was like, not a chance, and you were like, whoa.
Yeah.
You should have known things were changing. I will say, though, I do think for season 3, though, I can't wait. I just can't wait.
I think season 3 is going to be my personal crisis. What I will say is, Rox still loves her wild, wacky theories.
Yeah.
We were at Avebury recently, and they tried to tell me that the rocks can't be counted, which is ludicrous. They are there or they are not there.
Okay, clearly we're going to have to go back and we're going to have to count.
They are, because honestly, like, sorry, the National Trust is a lot of things, but I don't think they're setting up vanishing rocks to baffle tourists.
No, man.
Yeah, but, so, Rox still has a lower bar of belief.
I do. I definitely still believe in a lot of the weird and the wonderful. I just think that fairies are a little bit harder of a case to argue. Ghosts, however, give me that ghost.
I'm not going to fight with you on ghosts this time. To be fair, you still believe in fairies, you just think they're aliens, so I don't know. Okay, I don't know if that's a win or not. As we are wrapping up, if there is anything you would like to bring to us, you can find us on Threads, Instagram, Reddit, YouTube and Spotify. Feel free to hit us up on any of those. If you see any videos, posts or anything you would like us to discuss, please tag us in at
#SITNOS.
I did it to Rox and she handled it way better than I do. We also have our email address, scaredinthenameofscience@gmail.com. If you have anything you want to tell us about, analyse or deep dive into, please by all means send it over with pictures or images that you have, so we can take a little goosey gander.
Yeah, thanks so much for listening though, guys.
Thanks, guys.